no lasting habit ever started as a huge thing. Hardly anybody who says they're going to take on whatever big endeavor, I'm going to exercise for an hour and a half every day. I'm going to sit and meditate for 45 minutes every day. I'm going to get an extra hour of sleep every night. Those goals are too big for a starting goal.
Welcome to the Manders Mindset podcast. Here you'll find both monologue and interviews of entrepreneurs, coaches, healers, and a variety of other people, where your host Amanda Russo will discuss her own mindset and perspective and her guest mindset and perspective on the world around us. Manders and her guests will help explain to you how shifting your mindset will shift your life.
Hey guys, welcome back to Manders Mindset. As always, I'm your host, Amanda Russo, and I'm here today with a very special guest. I am here today with Becky Ackerman, and she is a mindset fertility coach. And when I first even heard that term, I was very intrigued to speak with her. So I am here with Becky today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Amanda. I'm excited to be here. Yeah. Fertility and mindset.
They go hand in hand, and honestly,
do.
Not something I previously thought about. But so I've started transitioning and starting my podcast off with a little bit of a way to lighten the load. So as I told you recently, I came back from Bali, and one thing I noticed, anytime we'd get in a Gojek, which is similar to an Uber, all of us Americans are often complaining or venting about what had been going on. And something I always heard from all the drivers was, what's good about your holiday? Holiday is what they refer to as vacation. And kind of basically another way of saying, like, okay, we get what is going wrong, but what's going good? So I want to know your hooray for the day.
Oh my goodness. My hooray for the day was that I was able to get up with enough energy to go do my workout in the morning. First thing. That's been my hooray so far. It's still early in the day. We may get more hoorays, but that's the big one so far.
Well, that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
So who would you say Becky is at the core?
Oh, well, that's an interesting question. I would say that I am a slightly neurotic, but very fun mom, wife, person. I'm an energetic and sort of closet positive person. A lot of times, if you were to talk to me, I mean, my husband is always surprised. He thinks I'm a glass half empty sort of human. But the truth is, deep down inside, I'm very glass half full. I think my way of kind of dealing with things is to speak the negative and just sort of get it out in the open. But internally, I'm usually fairly positive. I'm very much, I can do this. These are the things in my, I'm great at looking backward and saying, totally, these were all the amazing things, the steps that got me where I am. I've been really lucky in a lot of ways. So that's sort of a long-winded answer for who I am at my core.
Okay. So your husband doesn't think you're a positive person, but you would identify yourself as a positive person.
I mean, and I don't think he thinks I'm like a dreadful drag.
No, I didn't mean that. No, I get that. I was not implying that. But no, why would you consider yourself more positive than you think he considers you?
Well, because he's the one that I dump all the negative on.
Okay.
How's that for an amazing relationship?
Okay.
I mean, but when I want to vent, it's him that I go to.
I get that. No, that's fair. And we all need to have that person, regardless of who that is, whether it's our spouse, our sibling, our parent, whoever that is for you. Like, life gets hard, and life will throw out some shit at you, and just sometimes you just got to talk about it, you know? So I get it. I get it. So I'd love to backtrack a little bit if we could go down memory lane and you could tell us a little bit about your childhood, your upbringing, the makeup of your family.
Sure. So I'm from Iowa, far away from where I am now in New Jersey, which is a whole other story. But I grew up in a pretty traditional household, mom and dad. I have a younger sister and then a much younger brother. And I had a very happy childhood, really. Nothing out of the ordinary, nothing super exciting. It was good. It was good. Yeah, and we are a very close family. Despite the fact that I live far away, all the rest of them are still in Iowa, but we see each other often. We talk a lot. We're on a text chain that's constantly going. So that's my childhood. Yeah.
Okay. So now you say you grew up in Iowa. Now you're in New Jersey now. Where did this transpire? Like, how did you go to college? When did you leave Iowa?
I went to college in Chicago. And after I graduated, I stayed in Chicago working at the Field Museum of Natural History because my major was geology. And I really wanted to be a paleontologist was what I always thought I'd be. So right out of college, I got a job at the Natural History Museum working on a big dinosaur exhibit. And that was amazing and awesome. And while I was working there, I met my soon-to-be husband, and we got married. And then shortly after we got married, we moved to Madison, Wisconsin, because he went to business school there. And after his 2 years in business school, we had to decide. He didn't find a job. The economy, it was shortly after 9/11, and there weren't a ton of jobs. And so we had to make a decision. Did we want to just go back to Chicago and eventually both get jobs? Or did we want to go do something else? And we picked something else. So we actually moved to Puerto Rico. And we lived in San Juan we went down. We assumed we'd be there for about 6 months. The money would run out and then we'd come home. We ended up being there for 7 years. Yeah. And while we were there, I got certified as a personal trainer and a fitness instructor and a health coach. And that's what I did while we were there. And then after 7 years, his job transferred us up to New York. So we lived then in Manhattan for 8 years. And shortly after our third child was born, we decided it was time to move out of the city. We just wanted some more space. We wanted a backyard. And that is how we landed in New Jersey. So we're about a half hour, 45 minutes outside of the city now. It was a tough transition. It's the city. If you like it, you really like it. And I really liked it. So we spent a couple years, all of us, just sort of like, why are we here? How did we get here? And then COVID started and it was like, oh, thank goodness we're here.
So you were glad to be in the city during COVID?
We were glad to be out of the city.
Oh, okay.
We were glad to be out of the city where we had space to go outside. We had space to be in our house. Our house is big enough that we could sort of spread out. We didn't all have to be on top of each other like we would have been in the apartment. So yes, we are out in the burbs very happily.
Okay, nice. Now you say you were a personal trainer and a health coach. How do you get into that? So you were into geology, you were going to do paleontology, and that's a pretty big shift.
So fitness was always a pretty big passion of mine. It started when I was in like 8th or 9th grade. Exercise kind of became my go-to stress management modality. And I played tennis in high school, and I still actually play a lot of tennis now. But I enjoy moving. I like sitting still at a desk is not my kind of job. And so, you can only do paleontology or work in a museum in sort of specific places. It's not something that you can do anywhere. necessarily. You can go into academia and, I wasn't necessarily interested in that. So I decided, okay, well, if I want to find ways to be active during the day and I want to be, sort of constantly in an environment of fitness and exercise, then personal training and group fitness makes sense. It's a good fit. So that's what I decided to do. And so I got certified while we were down there. First I started out in an all women's gym, and then I worked at the Ritz-Carlton in San Juan that's no longer there. And then after a couple years there, I went out on my own and I did in-home personal training. And then when we moved up to New York, I was just starting to get off the ground when I actually got pregnant. And then as a result of all of my experiences trying to get pregnant, I decided I wanted to transition into fertility coaching. And so it's just sort of a little step sideways, really, from health coaching and personal training. It's very related. So it was a very easy and natural sort of transition.
I gotcha. I definitely see the relation between the fertility coach and the personal training. But when you were like paleontology to personal training, I was like, rocks to dumbbells? Like, how is that?
They're two things that I really like.
No,
and I knew that I was not interested after my experience working at the museum, which was an amazing job that I loved. It's the coolest, I think probably the coolest thing I've ever done or ever will do in a professional sense. But I knew that I was probably not wanting to go to grad school as I had thought originally that I was. And so life happens and it takes you where it takes you.
No, that's so true. That makes a lot of sense. So I'm curious. I'm sure you have your own fertility journey, but can you touch upon what made you decide you even wanted to be a fertility coach?
Sure. So it really does all stem from my experience. I had a horrible time getting pregnant. It took me 6 years to get pregnant with my first child. And the turning point really on that journey was when I said, okay, I'm going to try. I'm done with the traditional medical stuff because it wasn't, I'd gone as far with it as I could and it wasn't helping me anymore. And so then I went more toward a mind-body approach. And that was when I finally got pregnant. And then that idea was really solidified for me when we decided we wanted to have a second child. And it took a very long time. I mean, comparatively, it took not a long time, but it took me over a year to get pregnant that second time. And again, the moment that I sort of had that realization that I wasn't doing any of the mindfulness things that I'd been taught the first time around, and then I started doing them, that was when I instantly got pregnant the second time. And that was the moment that I realized, okay, I know something now. I've really learned something about the power of the mind, the connection between the mind and the body, and that fertility is much more than just sperm getting to egg. And that was really when I said to myself, okay, this is something that I'm interested in pursuing and helping other women figure out for themselves.
Okay. So now you said you were done with the traditional medical stuff. What, if you don't mind sharing, like what medical processes did you
Let me just take you through the quick version of everything that I went through.
Okay.
All right. So, we had no inkling that we were going to have any trouble. So just like everybody, we said, okay, time to have a baby. We're going to go do this. And, in a year, we'll have a baby. And we got to like the 4-month mark. And I think much of this was just impatience, as it is for a lot of women. But I started to think to myself, why am I not pregnant yet? This feels weird. I feel like I definitely should be pregnant by now. I'm starting to think something's wrong. Maybe there was a little bit of intuition in there. I'm not sure. I think most of us really just expect, because we're not taught that it can sometimes take a long time to get pregnant, even when there are no problems. we just kind of jump immediately to there must be a problem. But at about the 9-month mark, my doctor said, okay, let's do some tests. And so we ran all the blood tests and that all came back fine. But then she sent me for a hysterosalpingogram, which is basically an imaging test. They inject dye into your uterus to see the shape of your uterus, to see what might be in there. And then the dye spills out into your fallopian tubes, ideally. But if it doesn't, then you know that you've got a blockage somewhere in there. And my test came back showing that one of my fallopian tubes was at least partially blocked. But this doctor said, we're not going to do anything with that because the other tube is perfectly open. And if we go in to do surgery, we could unintentionally make things worse. All right, fine. That was her opinion. It turns out that was the wrong advice, but I didn't know any better. So we kept trying. She put me on a couple of medicated cycles, some Clomid. And then she said to me, goodbye, I'm sending you to a reproductive specialist and I don't want to see you again until you're pregnant. And she was serious. And I said, yep, you're definitely not going to see me again, probably ever. And I went to this doctor. The welcome packet that was handed to me by the receptionist when I came in was menopause and parenting magazines, like a whole packet of them. And I was like, okay, well, I'm here because I want to be a parent, not because I am. And I'm definitely not in menopause. So that really didn't sit well. And that appointment was a total waste of my time because I was so angry and upset.
Why would they give you magazine? Like, even if it wasn't a good doctor, I just don't understand what that is helping you with.
No, neither do I. But I was so turned off. I was so upset by it that that appointment is kind of a blur. I have really no idea what she said, but I left and never went back.
Oh gosh. Okay.
So I found another doctor. I had a friend who told me, she loved her gynecologist, go see him. So he was just a gynecologist. Fertility was not his thing, but he was really, really nice. And he said, okay, we're going to try some more medicated cycles. So we tried some more, maybe 3 or 4 rounds. He would increase the dose every month, but there was no monitoring. We didn't really know what was happening in my body. We just knew that I wasn't getting pregnant. So at the end of these 3 or 4 rounds, he said, all right, there's really nothing else that I can do for you. So here is the name of somebody else. Go, a reproductive endocrinologist, go make an appointment, talk to him. So at this point, we were already 2.5 to 3 years into this journey. It takes time, partly because in the back of my mind, I was always like, well, maybe I will just get pregnant. Then I was busy with my job. My husband was busy with his job. He traveled a lot. So we weren't always in the same place at the same time. So time is passing. But I made an appointment with this new doctor and he was fabulous. We reran all the tests and the blood work still looked great, but the hysterosalpingogram again came back showing it was blocked. And he said, there's only one option. We have to go in and do surgery and we have to actually look and see what the problem is. He was like, I don't know who told you not to do anything, but that's wrong. You have to do something with this. So I went in for surgery and what he discovered was that I had endometriosis.
And now what is that?
Endometriosis is where uterine tissue grows outside of your uterus. And I know when most people think of endometriosis, they think of horribly painful periods, women being put on birth control very early in their lives to control the symptoms. I never had a single symptom because endometriosis can be tricky and it really can present very differently in different women. So it was a total surprise. But I had a lot of endometriosis and it was most likely what caused my left fallopian tube to fill with fluid, because scar tissue can do weird things like that. So he cleaned all of that tissue out. He also found a fibroid that I didn't know I had, a decent sized fibroid at that. So he took that out. And then the thing that he really wanted to do was to actually remove my left fallopian tube. But I told my husband, no, I don't want anything taken out. So when he came out to ask my husband in the middle of the surgery, my husband said, no, she said, you can't. Because I didn't know, I didn't know really what we were going to find. And so I just had this idea that he was going to find something horrible and like want to do a hysterectomy right then and there. And I absolutely did not want that done without my permission. So instead, he just drained the tube and he pinned it open. And he told me that that would be a temporary solution, probably somewhere within 6 months to a year, it would fill back up. But for the time being, everything was open, so go try. So we did for about 3 months, and then we went back because nothing had happened. And we started a couple rounds of IUI, intrauterine insemination. In the first round, I ovulated before they could give me the trigger shot.
And now IUI, how does that assist?
So IUI is, I like to call it the turkey baster intervention. It's where the sperm is injected directly into my uterus, at exactly the right moment. The idea is that you time ovulation with a trigger shot so that you know exactly when you're ovulating and the sperm gets directly injected, and there you go. You do some ovarian stimulation to try to produce extra eggs and good quality eggs. But it is less invasive than IVF, than in vitro, where the eggs are removed and then fertilized outside of the body and then put back in. So the first round was a total fail. In the middle of the second round, I was in for a monitoring appointment, and he was looking at the ultrasound monitor as he was going, and he stopped and he was kind of, oh, your tube has filled back up now. Okay, so it took 7 months for my tube to fill back up. And so 8 months after my first surgery, I went in for a second and we took the tube out. At which point, the doctor told me, okay, that problem has been taken care of, but now you only have one fallopian tube, and so it will probably be difficult for you to get pregnant on your own. All right? And so I realized later how much I really took those words to heart. But at the time, I said, okay, fine, but we're still going to go try on our own. So again, we did for maybe 3 months or so. And then we went back for a few more rounds of IUI. And we tried, I think it was 2 more. I didn't respond to the meds at all. I produced no more than 1 egg. So they were basically failures as well. And then coincidentally, as we got to the end of the second, my husband found out that he was being transferred from Puerto Rico up to New York. And so I said, okay, we're done. I want to spend my last 6 months here just having fun, just enjoying being here. I don't want to do anything further. We sort of already knew that we weren't interested in moving on to IVF for lots of different reasons. It's expensive, it's invasive, it's not a sure thing. And I just didn't think, after everything, we'd already been at it for 5 years at that point. And I just didn't think that I could really handle anymore. So we took 6 months off. And when we got settled up in New York, I said, okay, I'm going to try some other things. And so I found a woman who did Mayan abdominal massage to try to, the goal there is to line up your uterus and your fallopian tubes and your ovaries so that everything's in perfect alignment. And that felt like something, since I only had 1 tube, that would maybe help. I don't know. Figured I'd try it. I started seeing a hypnosis practitioner, which I loved. It was amazing. And then I started seeing an acupuncturist right kind of toward the end of this 6 months. And 6 months after I started on this little mind-body quest, I actually got pregnant. For the very first time, I got pregnant, and it stuck. So 6 years, pretty much to the month, after we started trying, I was finally pregnant.
Now this mind-body quest, What did this
Yeah.
consist of? Hypnosis and
A lot of hypnosis, a lot of meditating, acupuncture. I don't know if it was the needles themselves or the fact that I just had to lie there quietly for like 20 minutes a couple times a week, because quiet and still is not my default mode. Active, moving around is my thing, but it's not necessarily conducive to relaxation. and so all of those things, I think, sort of quieted everything that was going on inside of me, both mentally and physically. When you're sort of in a state of chronic stress, your cortisol levels stay higher than they're supposed to be. And cortisol is an enemy. I mean, just a terrible enemy of your fertility hormones. Because it's a signal to your body that you're not safe. And when your body senses that you're not safe, it shuts down all of the things that are not essential. And growing another human is not essential to your survival. So your reproductive hormone levels fall, the blood flow to your uterus drops, your sex drive drops when you're stressed out. And none of these things are conducive to having a baby. So that's where I come in, and that's what I work with women on is bringing the stress level down, learning real ways beyond just the flip advice. Oh, just go relax. Well, but how? That in and of itself is sort of useless advice. How am I supposed to relax? This thing that I'm trying to do is incredibly stressful. I'm trying to get something that isn't happening for me, and that creates stress and overwhelm and lots of feelings that you have to find a way to take care of and deal with.
No, that makes so much sense. I'm so fascinated by the cortisol affecting the fertility, because I talk about that in so many different areas, because it affects your ability to achieve anything. Because even like you said, if your body feels like it's not safe, things aren't going to happen. Like I've interviewed a lot of people in the fitness space, and I'm sure you know this. You're not going to grow muscle or lose weight as easily if you're constantly stressed, like, because your body doesn't think it's a safe place to do so, And I really like also how you mentioned the stress is increased because there's something you are trying to get and you just can't get it. And, it makes me think of, and I know this is such a different connotation, but we live in a society now that we can have so much stuff so easily, from Amazon to DoorDash, which I know it's not the same, but like.
But it is. It all ties together because we're used to getting what we want as soon as we want it, but our bodies are not on that time scale.
Yep.
They work the same way they worked thousands of years ago. It's just that life now is 1,000% different than it was 1,000 years ago. And so it's hard for most of us to sort of reconcile those two things. And that creates stress. It's important to understand that. And I think that is a piece that gets sort of lost, that your body works very differently than the way our society works. And you have to find a way to be patient and to manage that stress, because you sort of create a feedback loop where, okay, maybe stress isn't causing your infertility, but because infertility is inherently stressful, you are piling sort of additional complicating factors on top of whatever else is going on. and making it harder to move past it and to move through it.
That makes so much sense. Wow. Okay. And I think so many people don't think they're going to run into any trouble. Even like you said, you and your husband just decided now you're ready to have a baby. So you were just thinking in about a year, we'll have a baby. And, so many people have that expectation. And, I actually learned this from you on a different podcast where you mentioned it's only 20% chance of conceiving a baby naturally.
When you're like in your 20s.
I had no idea.
In a perfectly healthy woman with no fertility issues in her 20s only has about a 20% chance of conceiving every cycle. And that number decreases as you get older, which means that sometimes even when there are zero problems, you may have to go through many, many cycles before you get pregnant. And that is the reason for the advice, the requirement that you try for a year if you're under 35 or 6 months if you're over 35 before you go get help. And I know that that's really a tough pill for a lot of women to swallow because there are no other medical conditions where your doctor says, go away and come back in a year. You find a lump somewhere in your body, nobody says, go away. They say, come in this afternoon. I want to look at it. And in some cases, there are reasons why your doctor should see you sooner than a year. There are, if you know that you don't, if your cycle is wildly irregular, or if you don't have a cycle, if you have some other underlying health conditions, then yes, you should find a doctor who is willing to see you. But if you have no symptoms, no reason to think that you have a problem, then it's important that you find a way to stay patient and relaxed as you go through that 6 month to a year period. Because in so many cases, all you really do need is just a little bit more time.
Okay. Do you know why, and you might not know this, but do you know why the percentage is so low?
Because having a baby, it's a really complex process. Because not every egg is good quality. Because not every sperm is good quality. Because there are so many things that have to happen just right to conceive and grow a healthy human. When you step back from it and think about all the things that have to happen, it's kind of amazing that any of us are here.
That's another way to look at that too.
And
you're meant to be here because it wasn't easy for you to be conceived.
It's not.
So wild.
It's really and so that is why, because there are so many things that could possibly go wrong.
Okay. So many factors.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so many factors.
Now, why do you... No, because prior to hearing you say this on another podcast, I've never heard this mentioned. I don't think it's that frequently talked about. Maybe it is in your space, like in the fertility world, but even growing up, because I'm pretty young, I'm 27. As a teen, you hear all these big fears of teen pregnancy and how common it is, and I'm not thinking that's the case.
Well, okay, so there are a couple of things. First of all, in your teenage years, your chances are a little higher because you're a little younger. And so your egg quality, the closer you are to the beginning of things, the better your egg quality is, which is why those chances go down, because as we age, our egg quality drops. Okay, so first, there is a little bit of that involved. The second thing is that when they do sex education in school, what they really want to drive home is let's not be getting pregnant, you know? And and I get it. And also there's the disease, the STD portion of it, where they want to emphasize that you need to be using a birth control, you know, to make sure that you're not spreading diseases. And I guess just for anybody listening, that does not include the pill, because the pill does not prevent any of these diseases. But that's the angle. They're talking to kids, and they don't want to tell you that the truth is you're probably not going to get pregnant, you know, in one cycle, because first of all, you might, but also they don't want to encourage kids to be having unsafe sex. And so that makes sense. But nowhere along the way does that other bit of information get added in.
Yeah.
And that is a problem. Somewhere, somehow, we need to be letting women know this.
Exactly, because that's where my head first went. That is partially even why maybe so many women have that expectation that it's not going to be difficult. Because even my cousin, she's the same age as me, and she's pregnant, but they were trying and it wasn't easy. And she was so shocked, because I think even my generation frequently heard about the teen pregnancies. Like Secret Life of the American Teenager was a popular TV series when I was growing up. But it's like you get this mindset in women's head that, oh, you have sex, you could get pregnant one time, boom, like. And then hearing it, there's a 20% chance. Like, I'm speechless. I don't think that helps any part of it, because there's a lost correlation. You know, so many women aren't hearing this, so they're thinking it's not that difficult. You know?
Right. And then once they get into it, there's got to be a problem, where there may very well be no problem at all.
That is such a tricky situation.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. And now I want to transition a tad bit, but so you're a fertility mindset coach. Now, how do you help your clients differently than fertility doctors would help them?
So I do nothing of what fertility doctors do. I don't prescribe any medicines or any treatments or anything like that. Everything that I do revolves around the connection between the mind and the body. I sort of have devised this little framework that I like to use, thinking about the 4 C's, about staying calm, staying confident, feeling in control, and feeling clear. And, you know, the first part of that, staying calm, as we've already discussed, infertility is really stressful and overwhelming and brings up lots of feelings and emotions and all the things that can make you feel like you're running in 1,000 different directions all at once. And so finding a way to sort of bring yourself back to your center, to a sense of calm, a sense of quiet, and a sense of peace is really important. Confidence takes a huge hit. Like, what do you mean I'm having trouble getting pregnant? I'm supposed to be able to do this. This is what women are supposed to be able to do when they want to do it. And so my body is failing me, and I don't know that my body can ever do this. So changing that thinking and reframing it and finding your way back to a place of, my body can do this. I just maybe have to figure a few things out, or I need to start talking differently to my body to rebuild confidence. Then control goes out the window when you're dealing with fertility problems. It's easy to feel like you've lost all control over everything, both your mind and your body. And so it's important to look at the things that you might actually really have some control over versus the things that you definitively have no control over, so that you know where to focus your energy. Because focusing your energy on things that you have no control over is a waste of time and energy, but it's also really defeating, because there's nothing that you can do that will change any of that. And so it's frustrating. It's like banging your head against a wall over and over. But if you instead focus on the places where you do have control, then you can make some real progress. And we work on clarity too, because sometimes you have no idea what you want to do next, how you want to approach it, what you should be doing, what you could be doing. And so sitting down, and sometimes it helps to come up with a roadmap. And it doesn't even need to be super specific, but just sort of a plan that, okay, well, I know that I can do this. And if this doesn't work, I could move on to that, or maybe even that. All of those are things that help you regain a sense of yourself in a lot of ways, and feeling more like an active participant in what's going on instead of just a passenger on some awful amusement park ride.
Okay. I really like that framework. And I like how you mentioned a roadmap of maybe I'll try this, maybe I'll try this. Even like you mentioned earlier about the acupuncture. You didn't know if it would work, but at that rate, like, what did you have to lose realistically? Okay.
Exactly.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious. I tend to ask my guests because majority of them have experienced some type of aha moment within their life where their mindset shifted and they just realized stuff about the world. What would you say you've had an aha moment?
So my biggest aha moment was really when I was trying to get pregnant for the second time. So we started trying, and I immediately got pregnant. And then I immediately miscarried. And it wasn't a big deal for a couple reasons. First of all, I never thought I'd even have the first kid. There was a long period of time where I thought we wouldn't have any kids at all. So we had one. And I had said to myself, if that's all I get, great. But also there was a little voice saying, well, you got pregnant really, really fast this time. I'm sure it'll happen again. But 15 months went by after I miscarried and I still wasn't pregnant again. And one day I remember thinking, well, wait, I'm not doing any of the meditations or any of the visualizations or any of that I did before I got pregnant the first time. And so let me start doing those again and just see what happens. And so I did. And a month later, I was pregnant. And that to me was a huge aha moment of, okay, I get it. I see it now. And in fact, then when we decided that we were going to have a third child, I started doing everything before we even started trying. And I then got pregnant immediately the third time. So it was a really big wake up.
Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense. Now,
Yeah.
how come you were not doing them to start with when you were trying for the second?
Just, I had a little kid that, I was busy. I wasn't, I don't know, one of those things where you look back on it and it's like, yeah, why weren't you?
No, it makes sense. It's very interesting though, because you were trying, and then is that the only thing you changed, was the adding in the mindful activities?
Yep. That was it.
So meditating, visualizing.
Yeah.
And was there anything else?
Not really.
Wow.
Not really. Yeah. Yeah. It's so, I will say to any of you listening, I know that I was extraordinarily lucky, and that sitting down and meditating and doing visualization exercises is not going to be the magic ticket for everybody. But the one thing that I can guarantee for everybody is that adding this in will make the whole process easier, less stressful, and it will help you feel like yourself as you go through all this. It makes it easier to cope with all of the treatments. It makes it easier to handle all of the surprise birth announcements, any of the phone calls that you maybe get from the doctor's office. Everything just becomes easier and more handleable, if you will, when you incorporate mindfulness into it. And for some people, it will be the thing that tips the scale.
Okay. So now, what would you suggest for any women listening to this who maybe they recently tried getting pregnant, whether it was their first time trying or multiple times, and they didn't?
So I would say that wherever you are, your next great step would be to figure out how you can incorporate mindfulness into your life that works best for you. And there are so many different things that you could do. For some people, it's a yoga class. For other people, it's just sitting at home on their own meditating, either just meditating on their own, or perhaps finding some guided meditations, or working with somebody who can lead you through some meditations. Journaling is a fantastic entry point into mindfulness. For some people, it could be art or whatever hobby that you like to do that kind of gets you out of your head, so that you're not worrying, so that you're not overthinking for that time period when you're involved in whatever it is that you're doing. That's always, to me, the first great step, is to try to figure out what your thing is, what the thing that helps you to truly relax is.
Okay.
And it doesn't need to be a long, involved thing. You don't need to sit for an hour in quiet meditation every day. You just need to find a way to incorporate it, a little bit at a time.
I love how you added it does not have to be this long, involved thing, because it wasn't a fertility journey, but I've struggled so much for the longest time with being someone who, I'm going to add in this thing, but I'm going to do it for like 2 hours, or I'll have 20 things I'm doing. For the longest time, I had such a long morning routine that I really thought relaxed me, quote unquote. And it wasn't until there was a day I was traveling and I was in the car full day. So I physically was unable to do all of it. And it threw me off so much. And I've never felt so dysregulated in my life. And I think a lot of people think they're gonna, if they meditate, it's gotta be this long, at least 30 minutes thing, and you're sitting in your Buddha position. It's like, you could meditate for 5 minutes and get benefits from it. You could read for 5 minutes and
Sitting in your chair
get benefits from it. You could take a few deep breaths in and even not actually do a meditation and get benefits from it, Now,
yeah, and no lasting habit ever started as a huge thing. Hardly anybody who says they're going to take on whatever big endeavor, I'm going to exercise for an hour and a half every day. I'm going to sit and meditate for 45 minutes every day. I'm going to get an extra hour of sleep every night. Those goals are too big for a starting goal. It's important to start with something small and reasonable. So I'm going to take 5 minutes to breathe deeply every day. Maybe before I eat my dinner, or as soon as I wake up in the morning. You pick a time that so that you can know mentally, this is when I'm going to do it. And you just do a little bit and you see how it goes. And you may find that you love it so much that you want to add more. You may find that the amount of time you've budgeted is a perfect amount of time. But starting small is always an important piece.
I completely agree. Now, you mentioned journaling, and now I'm just curious because I hear that very frequently about any type of mindfulness, about journaling. What would you suggest women in this situation journal about? Just free write or
anything and everything. So free writing is a great place to start. Just kind of dumping out all of the worries, all the fears, all the anger, all the disappointment, all of the, all of the things that you want to say to the people who make obnoxious, inappropriate comments to you. I love journal about that. What did you really want to say back? Write it down. Nobody's ever going to see it, but you get it out. And as far as, the worries and the fears, journaling is a great place. Once you see the things in writing that you're worrying about and you're fearful about, a lot of times we can look at it and say, well, that's why. I have no evidence that any of that will ever come true or is true. So a lot of times when we see things on paper, we're able to more rationally process it and see maybe where we've been too hard on ourselves, or we've imagined something to be worse than it is. We've built it up to be more difficult than it needs to be. So journaling is a great all-purpose tool.
No, I completely agree. It definitely, you can look at it more so from the outsider perspective as opposed to like from yourself. Now, I'm curious, in your opinion, at what stage in a woman's fertility journey would you suggest or think they might want to look into working with a mindset fertility coach?
So it really depends on the woman, but any stage is appropriate. If you're just starting out on your journey and you know that you have a tendency for like worst case scenario thinking or impatience, if you are an I want it now kind of person, you could think about working with a fertility coach right off the bat to just get some strategies to help you manage some of your feelings, some of your emotions, some of your stress, so that you can stay patient as you try for as many cycles as you may need. If you are, up to your neck in your fertility journey already, then also a great time, get that stress under control, learn some strategies. Maybe it's time to learn some good visualizations so that as you go through whatever treatment plan you're going through, you can visualize what the meds are supposed to be doing in your body, or what is supposed to be happening in your body, like on transfer day, if you're doing IVF. Because your mind steers the ship, the ship being your body. And so all of those things are helpful. If you have been told by your doctor that your next and only option is IVF, and you, in the back of your mind, are thinking, I'm not ready, I'm not sure, I want to see what else I can do, then that's a great time to get in touch with somebody to work on some of the mindful pieces of it, to see what you can do on your own. Anywhere on the journey, it's appropriate. There are different things we can do at different stages, but the goal is always the same: to make sure your stress level is down, to help you feel like a regular human being, and to be with you as you take whatever next steps you're going to take.
Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I think it's really awesome that you're really able to help them regardless of which stage they're at, just different types of help. Okay.
Yeah, mindfulness is for everyone, always.
I completely agree. I emphasize that all the time. Like, it doesn't matter what you're trying to achieve. Even if you don't consider yourself stressed out. Even that morning routine I mentioned, for example, I had no clue whatsoever, one, how long it took me, two, that it actually caused me so much stress. So I think it's important to incorporate some type of mindfulness. And now that does not mean you meditate and you do breath work and you spend even 2 hours in the morning. Like, not everybody has 2 hours in the morning before they start their day to.
Right. Most of us don't.
Yeah. So incorporating some type of mindfulness in a small way is a really great, it's great for everything. Honestly, there's nothing it's not going to help you with.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for speaking with me. I really appreciate you being on Manders Mindset. Now, I have a question. Have you heard of a man named Jay Shetty?
No.
He's a motivational speaker and author. He has a meditation app. He also has a podcast as well. And I'm not sure if he ends all his episodes with these, but he ends a lot of his episodes with 2 different segments. And I incorporated those on my podcast.
Okay.
Now, the first segment is called The Many Sides to Us. And there's 5 questions that need to be answered in 1 word each. Number 1. What is 1 word someone who was meeting you for the first time would use to describe you as?
Goofy.
What is 1 word that someone who knows you extremely well would use to describe you?
Empathetic.
Number 3. What is 1 word you'd use to describe yourself?
Fun.
Number 4. What is 1 word that if someone didn't like you or agree with your mindset would use to describe you?
Stubborn.
Number 5. What is 1 word that you're embodying right now?
Kindness.
Okay. Second segment is the final 5, and these can be answered in up to a sentence.
Okay.
What is the best advice you've heard or received?
Be patient.
Number 2. What is the worst advice you've heard or received?
Don't take any language in college.
Okay. Why was that the worst advice?
Because I really wanted to. And it has really served me well. But my advisor in the science department was like, nope, you filled language requirement. You shouldn't take any more language. No. Nope. You got to listen to yourself.
Love that. Okay. Number 3. What is something that you used to value that you no longer value?
I would say getting as much exercise as possible.
Okay. Now, how'd you stop valuing that so much?
It's not that so exercise has a lot of value, and I still place a lot of value on that. But spending all of one's free time exercising is probably not a key to a healthy lifestyle.
That makes sense. Number 4. If you could describe what you would want your legacy to be as if someone were reading it, what would you want it to say?
She was a really nice person.
If you could create 1 law in the world that everyone had to follow, what would it be?
If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Okay. Now, I do have 1 more question for you. If you happen to have the attention of the whole world for 5 minutes, what would you say?
Woo. I would say we all just have one go around on this planet. Let's be nice to each other. We're, let's cut the crap, people, and let's just be nice to each other.
I love that. No, it's so true. I completely agree with that. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you speaking with me.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Now, where can the listeners connect with you?
So I've got my website, which is www.lilyandbfertility.com. My email is becky@lilyandbfertility.com. And I'm on Instagram @lilyandbfertility.com.
Awesome. And I will link all of that in the show notes for you guys to connect with Becky directly. And now, before we close out, is there anything you want to leave the listeners with? Any final words? No pressure, but I've been on podcasts where I didn't get to say everything I wanted to. So I always ask that.
I guess I would say that just, to everybody out there who is struggling with fertility issues, you're doing a great job. It's really hard, and you're doing a great job.
That's true. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Manders Mindset. In case no one told you today, I'm proud of you. I'm rooting for you. And you got this. As always, if you enjoyed the show, I would really appreciate it if you would leave me a 5-star rating, leave a review, and share it with anyone you think would benefit from this. And don't forget, you are only one mindset shift away from shifting your life. Thanks, guys. Until next time.